building a better Bay Area. Moving forward, finding solutions. This is ABC 7 News.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm Dion Lim. You're watching Getting Answers live on ABC 7, Hulu Live, and wherever you stream. Now, what we do is we ask experts your questions every day at 3 o'clock to get you answers in real time. Lots to get to today because San Francisco Mayor London Breed joins us as we discuss two major concerns, COVID-19 and drugs. Also, we'll look at the incredible amount of damage natural disasters have caused this year and how you can help. But first, President Joe Biden addressed the nation on the fight against COVID-19. You saw it right here on ABC 7. So joining us now to talk about that and all things Omicron, Dr. Jorge Salinas. He is an epidemiologist, also an infectious disease expert at Stanford Healthcare. Jorge, thank you for being here. Right away, let's get into it because this address from the president to fight COVID and the Omicron surge, part of his messaging today was that he is adamant on distributing half a billion free at-home rapid tests to Americans starting in January. What's your reaction to that?
I think it's a great step in the right direction. It's probably not enough as a sole intervention, but when paired with other steps, I think that it can make us safer.
You know, there has been some criticism because other countries, such as Europe, they have had these at-home tests very readily available. Is this something that should have been done earlier in the U.S.?
Well, clearly the answer is yes. Unfortunately, nowadays in several metropolitan areas in America, people are making long lines to get a test ahead of the holidays. So yes, I wish that we had expected and worked on getting more of these tests sooner.
Yeah, certainly there's now this scramble. A colleague of mine actually bought 6 in anticipation of the holiday season. So it certainly makes a lot of sense. The demand is there. You know, President Biden really hammered home this need to be vaccinated. And if you haven't been vaccinated yet, what is there, I mean, if anything at this point that can get you motivated? I remember earlier on in the pandemic when the vaccines had just rolled out, people were being incentivized with things such as cash or free food.
Well, absolutely. I think that we have to try every strategy possible to persuade people to get vaccinated because it's a matter of life or death. Not being vaccinated increases tremendously your likelihood of getting infected, of getting severe disease, needing to be hospitalized and potentially dying. Mm-hmm. So yes, I will take any measure that can increase the number of people vaccinated.
Yeah, whether it be an incentive or maybe just the cold hard facts of science. Oh, and the fact that vaccination actually does prove to work and help you protect yourself from this virus. Now, one major priority is to keep schools open. The president said that there will not be any new lockdowns. What is your take on this? What have you seen, especially in the wake of this new variant when it comes to children?
Well, in general, in that sense, the president is correct that, again, unvaccinated people are more likely to get infected. And many children are not able to be vaccinated because they're not eligible. At the same time, we haven't reached a very high rate of vaccination among school-age children. So yes, I expect to have some risk of outbreaks in schools. And my hope would be that we can decrease the amount of transmission in the society, in our community, so we can keep schools open as long as possible.
Yeah, taking all of those precautions such as masking, social distancing, staying outside. Are there any more takeaways that you'd like to share with our audience about what the president said today?
Well, in general, what this means, and apologies, there's a fly or something around here, is in general, what this means is that we have to take Omicron quite seriously. It's a very contagious variant, and a number of people are getting sick even if they are vaccinated or boosted. So we have to be very careful, be very mindful of your socialization gatherings. And for the holiday especially, if you're going to gather with people, try to get a test ahead of time or minutes before the gathering starts. Try to limit the number of people that are in the meeting. And if you can, try to do it outside.
Looks like that little bug flying around wants to get on
I
TV,
know.
something like that.
I know. Apologies.
A quick reminder to everyone out there, please be free to leave your comments, any questions for our Dr. Salinas right now on facebook.com/ABC7News. I do want to pivot slightly and talk about this variant because we are seeing surges all across the country. In particular, New York, they are seeing this surge right now. Deaths, we should note, they typically lag a few weeks behind, at least from what I've read. Initially, it seemed like this variant wasn't going to be so bad, so it almost feels like the first real test to see if the vaccines will prevent serious illness. That's happening now.
I do have high hopes still for the protection that vaccines will give us from severe disease and death. In that sense, again, there is some miscommunication there. Yes, a milder illness is one that doesn't send you to the hospital, which is good news, but you can still feel pretty bad with this disease. And some people develop long COVID, have symptoms for a number of weeks after the incidence of it. So yes, I expect vaccines to help, but we should not bank only on vaccines. The protection against infection has decreased a little bit. Everybody should get boosted. And in general, we should add vaccines to other layers of protection, including masking in public spaces, trying to reduce gatherings, and be in well-ventilated spaces.
Well, speaking of hospitalizations, like you just touched upon, do you have a sense of how hospitals are holding up? We are nearing the second month of Omicron, and we are still hearing about the need for those hospital beds.
So hospitals in America are in a very tough position. In general, putting COVID aside, the health of America has worsened lately because there was difficulties getting access to care. In general, people are overall sicker, our hospitals are fuller, our healthcare workforce is tired. A number of people have stopped working in healthcare. So that is the baseline. Hospitals are full and exhausted at baseline. On top of that, we have influenza, Delta, and Omicron. So yes, all in all, this winter season, this new variant of COVID is bad news for hospitals. Even if the number of hospitalizations doesn't go up dramatically, our healthcare workers may get sick. You know, we are people, we gather with our families and we can get sick. And if a number of healthcare workers get sick, there's not going to be enough people to take care of patients in the hospitals. And the same applies to other essential businesses and activities of society.
I do want to let everyone know that we see all of your questions coming in. We only have about a minute left. So if we could touch upon boosters real quick, Doctor, because how long does it take for these boosters to fully take effect? There is a lot of talk about that, especially here in the Bay Area.
I think that the activity of boosters starts kicking in very quickly, 2 to 3 days after getting the dose. Probably a week later, your antibody levels are very high, are very robust. So I think this is perhaps a silver lining, an opportunity. Please go get boosted. It's exceedingly important. It will duplicate your protection against getting infected with this new variant.
All right, Doctor, we do have to take a quick break. Stay with us because on air we are taking a break, but online the show continues. ABC7news.com/ Facebook.com/ABC7News. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Real quickly, I want to say hello to Kelly Vanderby, who writes in at our Facebook page asking, when will boosters be available for 12 to 15-year-olds? They were vaccinated, I presume she's assuming, her own kids 6 months ago. Doctor, do you have a response to Kelly?
Well, the approval process for vaccines and boosters is slightly convoluted in America. It has to go to the FDA, to CDC, etc. So I'm not sure when would that happen. It may be a number of weeks, or even a few months.
Okay, we'll have to just be patient, taking it one day at a time. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us. We have to get to our next guest.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
All right, appreciate it. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you.
All right. All right, so for everyone who is joining in, I'd be really curious to hear how Omicron has changed your holiday plans, if they have at all. Are you making changes when it comes to your travel or when it comes to gathering with your family, friends, and other loved ones? So be sure to leave us your comment and also any question that you have in the comments section of facebook.com/ABC7 News. We are getting ready now for our next guest, San Francisco Mayor herself, London Breed, talking about some of the issues that are really plaguing the city in recent years, and particularly something that's been focused on so heavily in our coverage here at ABC7 News, meaning the crime and the response to it among COVID protocols, things like that. So here we go. We're about 1 minute away. Again, facebook.com/ABC7 News. Do we have the mayor with us, by the way? Okay. Hey there, Mayor Breed. Can you hear me? It's Dion Lim.
Hi, Dion.
Hey, happy holidays to you. Are you traveling at all?
Am I live?
No, not yet, not yet.
Oh.
we're on Facebook.
Oh my God.
I would not do that to you. You are on Facebook Live, though, so we're about a minute away. We're about a minute away. I like it. We're color coordinated as well.
You're color coordinated.
I love it. Here we go. 5 seconds.
5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Thank you so much for staying with us, everybody. As Omicron surges, San Francisco is addressing other issues that continue to surge. We are talking about drugs and crime. So joining us to talk about this, the mayor of San Francisco herself, Mayor London Breed. Mayor, always good to have you on the show with us.
Great to be here, Dion. Good to see you.
Yeah, same. You know, lots to talk about, so let's get right to it. The latest headline that leads into the bigger issue of crime. You declared a state of emergency for the Tenderloin to get more resources to slow down opioid deaths there. District Attorney Chesa Boudin, he very publicly pushed back on your plan to put more money into policing and patrolling in the Tenderloin. He says more money should go to housing and drug treatment. Those are platforms that he has long stood behind. What is your response to that?
My response is those are things that I've long stood behind too. And in fact, I put my money where my mouth is in terms of working aggressively in the city to accomplish that goal. This city is spending billions of dollars specifically to help support many of those programs and services. In fact, my budget proposed $1 billion of increased funding to support the homeless population, in particular, issues around mental health, behavioral health related issues, substance use issues, wraparound supportive services, housing. We're doing all that. So the response to addressing the challenges in the Tenderloin community is not just about services. It's about crime as well. The stabbings, the shootings, the selling of drugs, things that involve violence in some instances. We can't ignore the fact that that's also happening too. And so at the end of the day, our responsibility, including the DA, is to make sure that people feel safe in this city. And sadly, right now, that is not the case. And so my goal is to put safety above anything else and investing any and all resources, which also includes additional police officers to help keep people safe as well.
Yeah, obviously this is not a black and white issue, and it is very complex. I don't envy your job whatsoever. So can there be a balance of funds, or do you believe the majority should go into patrols? I mean, how do you toe that line?
Just to be clear about the funds, there is more money that goes into these various social service agencies, a number of organizations who receive funding to help address exactly what it is that we see in the Tenderloin. So this is, I mean, there is no comparison in terms of what we're spending on our police support in the Tenderloin compared to everything else around these various services. The street crisis intervention team, the street wellness team, urban alchemy, St. Anthony's, Glide, all of these various programs, even Health Right 360, like all of these agencies, all the various apartments and buildings that we purchased, that we own, that we're providing housing for, all the different groups that are constantly going out there to work with the various people in the community to help support them. And let's be clear, the fact is we are spending more money to support social service agencies to help support and address the problems, But we got to remember, sadly, there have been a number of shootings and stabbings, and there's open air drug sales that are going on, all of which are illegal and need to be addressed. And no social service agency is going to be available to address those particular violent situations where the police is needed.
Yeah, and that certainly goes along with my next question to you, is because DA Boudin also said that if arrests and prosecutions could solve the drug crisis, it would have been solved a long time ago. What is your response to that?
My response is, it's sad that we're simplifying a situation. You know, I have a friend that I grew up with that was chased down, beat down, shot and killed in the Tenderloin. I have another friend who was stabbed trying to break up a fight. We have a social service worker, someone who's down there trying to help people, who unfortunately was stabbed as well. So the fact is, this is not about an either or, one thing or another. This is about a balance between providing support and programs and holding people accountable when they assault people, when they kill people in this city, when they vandalize somebody's property, when they're selling drugs out in the open. So that should be our focus. And the fact that we're trying to simplify it to imply that we're talking about people who are addicted to drugs, that we're holding them accountable for this, that is further from the truth.
Yeah, not to mention we are bombarded, I personally am, with stories and leads that come out of the Tenderloin that echo your personal experience of what you had gone through earlier on. You know,
and Deon, the families down there, the families where they're trying to walk their children in the streets, the mom that was in tears who was assaulted, who was randomly hit on the streets and is scared to walk down the streets now. The grandma who family members don't know what to do. She won't even leave the house. The trauma from those kids, those seniors, those business owners, those families who have no place else to go. They deserve better.
Yeah, I think so oftentimes people forget there are children that live in this community as well.
Who can't even play in a park because of all the drug dealing and the drug using and the defecating and the urinating right in front of these playgrounds. Yeah. It's absolutely criminal that we would choose to allow the crime and the violence that occurs in the Tenderloin to consist at their expense.
I do want to get to a viewer question in just a moment, but before we pivot to that, a question on crime, because you had used some very strong words the other day in reference to what's happening in our city. The public seems to be on your side, at least many of them, saying they're glad you are serious about cracking down on crime. I actually had one business owner in Soma who was considering doing a story about the crime outside his pizza shop, but now he's holding off because he feels like you are paying attention and the situation will get better. You know, this being said, what exactly does that state of emergency entail?
The state of emergency that we announced has everything to do with all of the social services that, you know, the DA and the folks who held the press conference, none of which live in the Tenderloin anyway, this response is all about the social services. It's all about behavioral health, our clinicians, many of the resources that we provide, expanding those resources and getting people help. And in fact, working with our police officers. So for example, if someone is laying in the streets and they're high and they're struggling and they're smelling of urine, like we should not just leave them there. And the choice is, we have a place for you to go where you can get sober, where we're not here to judge you, and we can get you help if you decide you want to take the help. We're not forcing anyone to do anything other than to get off the streets when they are in a situation like that. And so our goal is to do a public health response, to not inundate our hospitals with people who are struggling with mental illness because they have been put on a 72-hour hold. It's creating an environment where they can get fed or clean or provided with support. So it's a very robust public health response, because what we've seen, sadly, is we've lost more lives last year than people who died from COVID in this city. We lost more lives to those who've overdosed. So that's what this emergency response is in terms of addressing it from a public health perspective and dealing with it head on.
Mayor Breed, thank you for those tangible responses. I do want to get to this viewer question because it has to do with Soma. This person says, "Dear Mayor Breed, I live in Soma. You declared that state of emergency for the Tenderloin. Our district has been plagued with junkies and criminals as well as open drug use. What are you going to do to protect children and families in this neighborhood?"
I think what we are trying to do is really focus on the Tenderloin and the surrounding areas of the Tenderloin, which does include Soma. So for example, there are parts of the Tenderloin that are in Soma, but they are incorporated into what we're trying to do in terms of this emergency response. My hope is that this will turn things around for that area in general, rather than what this person probably thinks that we're going to do is move the problem from one location to another. The point of this emergency declaration is to stop the problem in its tracks and really deal with it in the neighborhood most impacted. And my hope is that it will have an impact on the Selma neighborhood as well.
Mayor, I know you have a hard out. We only have about a minute left. I want to be respectful of your time. But this question that we have is that last summer we saw so many protests around racial injustice. Funds were reallocated because of it. Did that lead to an increase in crime?
I don't think that that can be attributed to an increase in crime, because I want to be clear that we allocated resources specifically from our public safety departments, including the police department, to help support the African-American community in particular, but we did not decrease the number of officers in the department. We did not decrease the number of academy classes and other things that we need around law enforcement. And in fact, there is a real challenge with recruitment of law enforcement agencies all over the country. But we do feel strongly that a lot of the resources that we have invested in the community have made the difference in many lives and many people in San Francisco. We know that there's a lot more work to do this pandemic and what's happened and how people have lost their jobs and the lack of resources. We got to just make sure that those resources get into the right hands where hopefully people's lives can change so that they never feel that they ever have to cross that line that could sadly, land them in a bad situation and continue to impact our city negatively.
Mayor Breed, we always appreciate your time. Hey, real quickly, do you have anything fun planned for the holidays?
Yes, I plan to sleep.
That sounds fantastic. Thank you very much. I hope you get that
relax
rest.
And have a good time. And I'll just say, look, this just quickly on the Omicron, we are seeing the number of cases go up. We had over 300 cases since yesterday. And so we want to be very careful during the holidays, make sure that you enjoy your family, but you think about the fact that this is transmitting more rapidly than anything else. We don't know what it's going to do in terms of hospitalizations and deaths. But we will continue to keep the public posted as we get more information. Have a great holiday and be safe out there.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Hope you do get that rest after all. We'll see you in a bit.
Thank you.
Cheers. All right. Well, ABC is holding a day of giving for disaster relief as we are getting those staggering numbers on the damage disasters have caused this year. More on that just after the break.
In commercial break.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for chiming in on Facebook and also who are tuning in on YouTube as well. The Facebook is, as you see, facebook.com/ABC7 News. Be sure to share this post and also continue to answer our question, if you have a moment, about the status of Omicron, this new variant, and COVID. Does the recent surge change any of your holiday plans? Are you still planning to travel, gather with friends, families, and loved ones? As I'm scrolling through this, lots of comments on suggestions on what you would like to see happen with the city. Please continue to leave those as well. I encourage everyone to have a civilized discussion and to make sure that there is no bullying on our platforms. But please engage and enjoy the rest of our show. We have our next guest lined up in just a second, and we will get to this person very shortly. Oh, Jenny, hey there. Can you hear me? It's Dion in the studio.
I can hear you, Dion. How are you?
All right. I'm good. I'm good. I myself am about to enjoy some time off for the holidays, so I feel in a particularly good mood.
Excellent. Yes.
Do me a favor. Your last name, Arietta, is that right?
It is. That's right. Very
Arietta.
good.
Excellent. Great. So we'll ask you, some questions about the Red Cross and what you're doing, with this active year of severe weather. Is it just me, or does it seem like every year the severe weather situation is getting worse?
You are spot on. Yes. 2021 was definitely another year for the record books. Huge hurricanes, wildfires, we had floods, and now the recent tornado outbreak in the Midwest and South.
Oh boy.
Last year.
5 seconds.
Oh,
We'll get back on the air in just a second. Hold that thought.
Okay.
Thank you.
7, 6, 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
So glad you're staying with us. ABC7 and our ABC-owned stations across the country are hosting a day of giving for disaster relief all day long. So joining us right now to talk a little bit more about that, Jenny Arrieta, Communications Manager for the Northern California coastal region of the American Red Cross. Jenny, thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Okay, well, the Red Cross, this has been one of the country's most active years for severe weather. Is it safe to assume you're also seeing a record number of displaced families?
We absolutely are. With bigger disasters becomes bigger impacts to communities that are in their way. So as with the recent tornadoes in the Midwest and South, we are seeing entire towns, communities razed to the ground. We're supporting a lot of people. Here we are more than a week after the actual tornado event. Last night, we sheltered more than 950 people across 27 shelters. So definitely, we're helping tens of thousands of people every year, and no sign of that slowing down anytime soon.
Now, it's not just housing people who are displaced. What are some of the other resources the Red Cross can provide?
Sure. So let's say you were just involved in the tornadoes. You've lost your home. You've lost everything. You've just got the clothes on your back. The Red Cross will shelter you. We will feed you. We will provide you with on-site disaster health services, mental health services. We will do a disaster assessment on your home and determine what are your immediate needs for the near future. We will also start casework with you to get you on the road to recovery. All of that takes a lot of people, a lot of moving parts, and it takes a lot of money, which is why we rely on the generosity of the American people to support our mission and enable us to do what we do.
We'll mention how people can donate in just a second. We only have 20 seconds left, but I do want to get to this. We just had an earthquake off the coast. Do you have some preparedness tips for our audience?
Absolutely. If it starts shaking, drop to the ground, cover yourself with a sturdy piece of furniture, and hold on until the shaking stops. That's the quick 1, 2, 3 with earthquakes. You can go to redcross.org and find other preparedness tips as well.
Jenny Arrieta from the Red Cross, many thanks to you for that great
Thank
resource.
You.
And we will also remind everyone right now, redcross.org/ABC is where you can go to make that gift today. You also see on your screen other information.
Can do.
You can also call 1-800-RED-CROSS or even text Red Cross to 90999 to donate $10. Keep in mind, additional texting fees may apply. Jenny, always a pleasure having you. Thank you for joining us. We will be right back after a short break. Okay, Jenny, I'm so sorry to have to cut you off. We were hitting a commercial
not at all.
break.
Totally fine. I didn't even know it was a break, so no worries.
Oh, funny, live TV. I know we have about a minute or so before we have to say goodbye to everyone, but we are still, 2 minutes, but we are still streaming live at facebook.com/ABC7 News. Can you address this other question that we had? Is that, you know, the latest disaster, we're seeing that death toll rise. You touched upon it, those tornadoes in Kentucky and in other different states. You know, can you specifically tell us how the Red Cross has mobilized in those areas?
Basically, people have answered the call. You know, spending the holidays on a disaster was not in many people's plans, but the need arose. And as has been the trend for this year and certainly last year, disasters happen. They can and do happen anytime, even the holidays. So when this occurred, people stepped up. They chose to deploy. We have hundreds of Red Crossers on the ground. We have additional Red Crossers that are responding virtually. It is a full-scale, you know, full steam ahead response, and it will continue for the foreseeable future. This is a huge disaster operation, and a lot of people have been impacted. So we're going to be there as long as it takes.
Yeah, I'm always amazed by the generosity of people's time, and not only the monetary part as well, of just the public who want to really just descend whenever there is something like this. So, you know, it never ceases to amaze me, the kindness of everyday strangers.
30.
It's truly incredible. It's one of the best things about being part of the Red Cross.
Yeah, well, thank
Hands
you.
down.
Well, thank you so much for your time. We're coming back from our commercial break, and I do want to remind everyone again, redcross.org, if you would like to learn more about the Red Cross as a whole and also get involved yourself. So, Jenny, thanks again, and we'll talk with you soon, I'm sure.
Thank you. All right, take care.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay, sounds good. Here we go.
6, 3, 2, 1.
Thank you again, everybody, for joining us on this interactive show called Getting Answers. Today, we covered the latest with Omicron and President Biden's plan to fight the surge. Also, we talked with San Francisco Mayor London Breed about the crime and drug crisis in the city. I'll see you right back here for the news at 4, but first, World News Tonight is next.